So I tried a different genre of photography for shits and giggles. It's something that I don't do on this channel often. And before I tell you what that is, I just want you to guess. That's right, it's macro photography. Now, the lens I want to talk about today is the Laowa 65mm F2.8 Macro Lens. I just want to say that macro photography offers something totally unique from other genre of photography that I've tried. It gives such a unique perspective. You are automatically drawn into the life of an ant, a ladybug, or any small insect. And you get to see details on a magnification that you don't often get to see unless you're a macro photographer already. Right off the bat, the first thing I notice is how long the barrel is compared to the usual lenses that I've tried. Whereas the other lenses I usually review are short, stumpy, wide, and fat, this lens is longer and skinnier and more narrow. I'm a fan of Laowa glass, and I think they have some of the best glass when it comes to like third-party lenses for the Fujifilm X mount. Aperture dial is well dampened and it has a good amount of resistance to it, and it is clickable. This is what I prefer since I'm a photographer. It gives me a tactile feedback to let me know that I've switched to the next value. It has the blue ring around the lens for the aesthetic. It has a 52mm filter thread size, and the minimum focusing distance that you get with this lens is 17 centimeters or 6.7 inches for my American viewers out there. And the macro magnification is a 2:1. Which means that it can get in real close, like stupid close. Like, I didn't know you can get this close. It's almost intrusive because now you're just sticking that lens so close to the subject, they can't avoid it. The marking on the lens shows you where you have to rotate to get to a different level of magnification, which I find to be very helpful. There is a 2:1 magnification. You can go to 1.75:1, to 1.5:1, 1.25:1, and also 1:1 magnification. Now, I'm not claiming to be an expert at macro photography. I do, however, like experimenting with a new lens, and I do enjoy the process of a macro lens. It's quite different from like a standard nifty 50 lens, for example. So I've been doing what the cool kids do whenever they buy a new Leica camera or like a new macro lens, and that is to take photos of plants. What I found throughout this process is if you shoot macro wide open at f2.8, your depth of field is going to be razor thin. So you need to stop it down to like f8 or f11 to get some decent shots. But by closing down your aperture, you let in less light. And once you stick that camera body and that lens to a plant with your human life-size body, you basically become a shadow for these plants and for these ants. And your human-sized shadow will block any light that they may have previously. So you are going to have to raise your ISO and risk introducing noise. And also, there's no way IBIS can help you out in this situation as much because it's very hard to keep this lens steady. At this magnification, your micro jitters are amplified. Let's just say if you're focusing on if you're trying to take pictures of like a plant or a leaf and a wind blows, the slightest movement will just make, at this level, it becomes out of focus. So these are things to be mindful of when you are shooting macro photography. And I can confirm that it's really hard because I was using this lens to film some macro stuff, and I find it to be the case. It was quite hard filming handheld. And no matter how steady you think you are at holding the camera, you are going to have a rough time doing it handheld. So what I recommend is if you are using this as a video lens, to have a tripod. I do like how sharp my images are though. Like the 65mm focal length is a mid telephoto lens, and in full frame equivalent, that is around 92 to 93mm focal length. And I find with its compression, this lens is very good to be a portrait lens. The images that I got were crisp, and I find the bokeh to not be that bad looking. The lens do suffer from some loss of contrast once you shoot towards the sun. And I find this lens to be incredibly sharp on the Fujifilm XT5's 40 megapixel sensor. And then once you stop it down to the sweet spot, like 5.6 or so, you're going to get a crispy looking image, which I find to be pleasing. So in a pinch, if I ever get bored of the other focal lengths, I can use this 65mm as a portrait lens. This lens also makes a good product photography lens. Whenever I make YouTube thumbnails, I will take this lens out because I just want something with a little bit more oomph. I just think that the compressed look will give you more of a professional look, and that is something much better than something that is shot on like a wider lens, but you have to shoot at like a closer distance, like the minimum focusing distance. and that will cause all sorts of distortion and whatnot. This Laowa 65mm F2.8 has many other use cases other than just macro photography, and I do appreciate that. I find this lens to be quite versatile in that regard. But overall, I enjoy this lens a lot. I remembered I had a good time with the 80mm F2.8 macro lens because of what it does. It transported me into another world, and while I was using this Laowa lens, I felt those same feelings come back, and I like that. It, made me feel like a little kid again. I was just excited for the process. I was like, looking for bugs. I was looking for leaves, anything that I can find, to get in those details. Like, I was like wandering around, just, being a kid again. So it's great. And if you're looking for a cheaper alternative, like a lightweight setup than what Fujifilm's macro lenses have to offer, because the 80mm F2.8 is huge and it costs like $1,200, and it's only 1:1 magnification, not the 2:1 that you would get with the Laowa. But the only thing that the Laowa doesn't have is autofocusing and the weather sealing. So there's some trade-offs to that. Fuji also has a 60mm F2.4 macro lens. That would be something closer to competition to the Laowa. However, that magnification is only 1:2, so you still get more with this Laowa, and the 60mm macro lens from Fuji costs around $650. Whereas this Laowa 65mm F2.8 costs $399. The Laowa is smaller, it's light, it's compact, and because of its aprochromatic optical designs, the chromatic aberrations is to a minimal. I did not see any fringing at all when I was using this lens. The images you get are crisp and it has a lot of details, especially with the Fujifilm XT5. And this is why I enjoy shooting with Laowa lenses a lot. I think Laowa produces some of the best optics as a third-party option for the Fujifilm X mount, and I kind of see them being at the top of the pack when it comes to the third-party brands. Again, this Laowa is versatile. You can shoot product photography, you can shoot portraits with it, you can shoot landscapes in a pinch if you ever need that reach of a 65mm focal length. I think it's a solid performer, and it's one that I can recommend for someone that is looking to save a few bucks, that doesn't mind the manual focusing aspect of this lens, and that's just interested in, taking photos of like a whole new world. And if you're interested, I'll leave the links so you can check out that information for yourself. But what are your thoughts about macro photography and this macro lens in general? Do you guys have it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the